Is this live? Hi, my name's Jason Cook, and this is Drunk Film Remakes for Shawshank Redemption. So why did you pick this film? Why did I pick this film? It has prisons in it. I like prisons. I like rocks, prisons. Rocks, prisons, what else? I mean, that's enough. That's all you need, really. Do you think we'll make it better? You know, in some ways I think we'll make it better. Like if this is the whole movie, I think this much we'll make better. Maybe it might be smaller than that, like maybe that much. List the top 3 worst things about this movie. There's not enough black people in it, so there's that. It takes place in like the 40s or 50s. That's not my favorite era. My favorite era is like the medieval times, and I'm a little disgruntled by that. That's number 1. Number 2, where are the women? It's supposed to be a progressive movie, but no women are anywhere in this movie. It's just a bunch of men. You know, I think there could have been a dance number. They picked Morgan Freeman instead of Denzel Washington. Why? Yeah, I think the director hates Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington would have been a good pick. All right. List at least 3 movies that were better than this one. Two movies that were better. Dos. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, or Robin Hood. The one with Kevin Costner. It's got Morgan Freeman in it. Ah! The Cat in the Hat. I guess the Dora cartoon, PBS Dora cartoon, better than this movie. Ace Ventura, Casablanca is better than this movie. I haven't even seen Casablanca, and I know it's better than this movie. Pretty much anything Weird Al has done. Oh, geez, I'm not done. I gotta finish this. Then Wilder. There you go. That's better than this movie. Every episode of Law and Order. Okay, talk me through the movie. So Andy's the main character, and it starts out with him. I got a little bit left. Andy, what's Andy doing? Andy's sitting in his car. It's nighttime. He's sitting in his car. He's parked on like a gravel driveway in front of this small house. It's not a log cabin, but it's wood. And 1 or 2 of the lights are on inside. He's holding a gun. He's got bullets. And he's holding the gun. He's just sort of contemplating. He's thinking about things. He's sitting there, and he's just thinking about what he's going to do with his gun. It's like, I want to shoot somebody. And then flash to a court scene. Andy, the dude who was sitting there in his car at night, is sitting up in the stand, testifying. And a lawyer approaches him and he's like, so, you pulled up in your car and you're sitting there with a gun. What do you do? What are you doing? And he says, I'm just sitting there, minding my own business. Also minding their business because they're sitting in the house. And then the prosecutor says, or asks, or says, then you go into the house and you shoot your wife and you shoot her lover in bed. And Andy said, no, I didn't do that. I got out of the car. I was sitting there with my gun. I'm getting back into my car. I'm leaving. and I drive to the ocean and I throw my car. No, I don't throw the car. I throw my gun into the ocean. And the prosecutor says, well, that's pretty convenient, you know, getting rid of the weapon, because we found spent casings from 38 sitting on the floor in this guy's house, and your wife's dead body and her lover's dead body laying in their bed. The same kind of weapon you testified you owned, and we know that you own based on the registration. And Andy says, yes, but that wasn't my gun. Those weren't my bullets. I did not shoot them. Like I said, I threw my gun into the ocean. Prosecutor says, well, that's pretty convenient. And he says, I guess you're, yeah, sure is. Sure is. So anyway, fast forward. So Andy gets convicted. Andy gets convicted of murdering his wife and her lover. He goes to prison. He's riding in this bus with a bunch of other convicts going to prison. It's a scary prison. Like, he drives up. It's like a maximum security or whatever. Whatever kind of prison, you know, killers go to. You know, they don't go to the minimum security prisons. And so that night, several, not all, but several of the current prisoners decided to take bets. So the bus had a lot of new prisoners coming in. And so the existing prisoners, some of them, decided to take bets on who would crack first. Who would crack first. And a lot of people, you know, took bets. Red is the name of one of the prisoners. He took bets. He's like, all right, who wants to take bets on, who's gonna start crying like a little bitch first day they're in prison? One of the guys is like, yeah, Fatty over there. Fatty, he's definitely gonna crack because he's in prison. So another guy's like, that other dude, that other weirdo, he looks like a little pansy. So I'm pretty sure he's gonna break. He's gonna start bawling. Now, keep in mind, Red, so that's the name of this one prisoner, Red, played by, oh gosh, Morgan Freeman. Red says, oh man. So he's the one who's like setting up the bets. It's like, oh, I know who's gonna crack. It's gonna be that skinny tall guy, a skinny tall white guy, which was Andy, the one who just went to prison, the one who was accused of killing his wife and her lover. And so the bet went down and night falls. So all the guys who took bets were listening. They were like, one of these guys is gonna break first. I hope it's my guy. I hope it's my guy. I wanna make some money. So they're listening. Who is it gonna be? Who is it gonna, guess who it wasn't? It wasn't Andy, dude who was convicted of killing his wife and her lover. It wasn't Andy. It was this fat guy, this fat nobody. He starts crying, bawling his head off. Woo! The dude who bet on him, he made some money that night. Made some smoke, or he earned some smoke. I don't remember what the bet was. So yeah, Red, he lost that bet. I was like, okay, this Andy guy, he's a little tougher than he looks. He looked pretty pathetic, but he's a little, like, this is the bottom. He's like, right there. See the bottom? Here. So he's like, okay. And he's not at the bottom. He's like one step above that. And he keeps to himself at the beginning. And then who does he talk to? Red. He talks to Red first. It's like, Red? He approaches it. He walks up. Like, Red? He knows that Red gets things for people. Red has connections. Red gets things for people. Red's good at getting things for people. She's like, hey, Red. Red's like, yeah, what do you want? A rock hammer. Which is, what is that? I think it's this little hammer. It's like that big. That you work on little rocks with. And Red's like, hey, ever heard of that before? Sounds like a weapon. He's like, no, it's not a weapon. You can't hurt anybody with this thing. It's so tiny. Might as well just poke him with your finger. And Red's like, fine, whatever. Yeah, I'll get you your rock hammer. There's a premium though, because this is a new thing that I've never gotten before, and because I still think that you could probably kill somebody with this. And he says, sure, just get it for me. I'll pay you whatever you want. So Red gets him that hammer. Andy's stoked. But Andy's like, he's got Asperger's. We're just gonna say he's got Asperger's. I don't really know for sure, but he doesn't really show a lot of emotion at all, so he doesn't really show that he's excited. But you know he's excited because he got what he wanted. He got his little rock hammer. And, I mean, basically, Andy, he likes collecting and polishing rocks, so that's the whole reason he got the rock hammer. When Red asked him why he want it, it's like, because I like collecting and polishing. Bang, 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 break the little rock apart until the shape he wants, and then he polishes it. That's why he wants the rock hammer, so he can break things apart the right way. Now, moving on, a year or two go by. At this point, Andy knows, or at least at this point, other prisoners know, and the warden and guards know that Andy's educated. He's not just a simpleton. He went to college. He worked at a bank, doing bank stuff, financial stuff. Not like as a teller, but like as one of the big people, one of the important people at the bank. So the warden catches wind of this. He starts figuring this out. He's like, hey, you know what? Let me talk to this Andy guy. And eventually Andy starts doing the warden's taxes because he's good at finance and he understands how to manage that. So Andy did so well on the warden's taxes that the warden got all of the guards together so that the guards could have their taxes done. This was the next year or whatever. So he was doing the guards' taxes. He was doing everybody's taxes. And, you know, he made some friends. I mean, the guards wouldn't say that they were his friend, but there were a few prisoners that considered Andy his friend. Red was one of them. And, you know, Andy had 2 life sentences to serve. Because of that, you know, Red couldn't understand why Andy was so calm and seemed peaceful and even cheery at times, you know, positive. It's like, what's going on with this guy? Why does he seem so happy and chipper? I mean, he wasn't like seriously happy. I mean, he's in prison, but he seemed positive. Red didn't understand why. So after a while, you know, he was doing a little bit of taxes, you know, for the warden and a few guards. After a while, Andy got moved to the library. I mean, when he was doing work, he was working in the laundry room, but the warden decided, hey, he's too valuable to stay in the laundry room. I'm going to move him to the library, which is closer to me, which means that he'll be able to do more financial stuff for me and my guards, which meant that he could do more financial stuff for the warden. So the warden ended up having him launder money that the warden made, well, the prison made through different contracting jobs that the warden had prisoners do instead of private contractors, because the warden could charge much less than any private contractor could, which let him get the contracts. So Andy was laundering that money with the goal, the warden's goal, of funneling it all back to him, which, due to Andy's laundering, meant that it couldn't be traced back to the prison. So the warden thought, hey, I'm getting all this money, it's being laundered to me, so it's untraceable, which is why, you know, Andy was doing what he was doing for the warden. That's why the warden had him set up like that. So Andy was pretty smart. He knew how to do this. He ended up, to make this work, he created fake identities. He created bank accounts for these identities, and then bank accounts, IDs, social security numbers, all this stuff around personas that didn't really exist, so that he could funnel money and launder money that was gained by the warden through prison contracts that use prison labor. And, you know, Andy continued this for a long time. The warden continued this for a long time, making tons and tons of money. So 20 years after Andy was sent to prison, he talks to Red. So, I mean, during these 20 years, you know, him and Red have been buddies for a long time. 20 years go by, and then he's like, talks to Red, and he says, hey Red, you remember that place I told you about where there's an oak tree sitting on a hill right beside that stone fence? Remember that place I told you about? In that one town not too far from here? Where it's like, yeah, I remember. And he says, promise me, if you ever get out, go to that tree on the hill by that stone rock fence, whatever. Near that tree, there will be a stone by that fence. It's a black stone, obsidian, a black stone. Underneath that stone, I left something. Promise me you will get it. Promise me you'll go there and find it. And Red says, sure, I'll do that. The very next day, during the morning prison roll call, the guards were doing a roll call. They were calling out all the prisoners. Andy was missing. The warden was furious. Where is he? Who's responsible? How did he go missing? No one could find him. Later that day, the warden went to look at his paperwork. You know, the paperwork associated with his money laundering or whatever. And he looks closer, and he sees that the accounts that should have all that money that had been laundered over the years were basically empty. And he's pissed. He is so pissed. The notes for the accounts showed no money at all. So later that day, the warden went to Andy's cell. Of course, he's furious. He's livid. He is livid. And, you know, so Andy left some of his possessions there. There were some polished rocks that he had sitting on the windowsill, or the ledge, whatever. I don't know if he had windows. He grabbed one of those rocks. He sees a poster just sitting on the wall, and he throws it as hard as he can. The warden, he throws it as hard as he can. And he was just expecting it to bounce off and land on the ground or whatever. He wasn't expecting anything. He was pissed. He's furious. But something strange happened. The rock didn't bounce off. It went through the poster and kept going. And he's like, huh, what? So he moved the poster, and holy crap, there's a hole like this big behind the poster. And it goes all the way to the end there, where there's like a hole and there's plumbing. And he goes, are you kidding me? And that's when he realized this is what Andy used to escape. He'd been digging a hole this whole time. So, of course, he was pissed. Anyway, a few years later, Red went to another parole hearing, and lucky for him, he was released. His parole hearing went well for him, and he was released. He didn't forget his promise to Andy. He decided, yep, I'm going to go up to that hill, that tree on the hill, right by the rock wall, not too far from here. So he went up there. He found the black stone that is like this big, the black stone that Andy said would be there. And he moved the stone, and yep, there was a little lunchbox sitting there. He moved the stone. Under it was a lunchbox. Small little lunchbox like that. I mean, small for today's standards, but back then, people ate less food. We eat a lot more food now. He opened it up. In it, he found an envelope with several $100s in it, and a letter to him. A letter written to Red. Okay, what's going on? So Red reads the letter. The letter was from Andy, and it said, Red, you're my best friend in prison. If you're reading this, then you're out, and I want you to come see me. I'm in Mexico. Go to the place I told you about in Mexico. So that's what Red does. He uses that money that's in that lunchbox, and he goes to Mexico. He goes to the city that's on the coast, and he goes out to the beach where Andy mentions he might be. And guess what? Andy's there. Red finds Andy on the beach. That's it. That's the end.